Hello, usually I'm trying to avoid some loud words, but today I want to tell you about the best price to quality ratio in the Astell&Kern lineup, and you can see by the name of this video and by the name on this box, it's KANN Alpha, and it's the third model in the KANN sub lineup, or how to name it. I don't know what is actually the basic idea behind this KANN series by Astell&Kern, but they are shaping and developing this line pretty nicely. First one was experimental, it was a normal model but nothing stellar. Second one, KANN Cube, was, I don't know, it was big, but I don't know what was the sense in creating such a model. And now finally they managed to achieve probably all goals they set when they initially create this model, because KANN Alpha is a pretty affordable model in the Astell&Kern's lineup. The price is $1,100, which is pretty good for them. It's powerful model with huge battery, and also it features a lot of new technologies, starting with Android 9 as an operation system, if I remember the specs right, and Bluetooth 5 with LDAC codec and Pentacon connector, so they added a lot of new and interesting stuff here. It's based on the dual ES9068 chips, new chips by ESS, and it can output up to 12 volts RMS, so you can understand that it's pretty good specs even for other companies, but adding here Astell&Kern's brand, we can see that it's a really good value. So let's proceed to the review. Package is simple, but it's done in nice and stylish way. They use unusual shapes here, it feels pretty heavy. Lot of specs are printed on the back side of the package in the different languages, but inside everything is a bit simpler, but it's still Astell&Kern, so it opens double way. Inside there is a player itself, and underneath the accessory set. Basically, accessory set is limited here. It's just a charging cable, pretty bulky one. You can see thick isolation, and also here quick start guide, some protective screens. Unfortunately, there is no case in the accessory set. Even some kind of simple silicone one would be nice to have, but it's not here. And actually, it's surprisingly small player. Of course, it's thick and heavy because battery inside is pretty huge, but thanks to the well thought shape and nice edges, and this DAP has a pretty good ergonomics. It fits nicely in, it feels nicely and solid in hand. Finally you can grab it with one hand. It's pretty pocketable. Well, you'll need to have a big pocket, but still I can carry it in my jeans pocket at least. So on the bottom there is a USB-C for charging, and speaking about charging, it took about 3 hours with a half to charge it with quick charge, or about 5 hours without the quick charge. Micro SD slot. As usual for Astell&Kern, spring is pretty powerful, so be careful, it can send your micro SD card flying somewhere pretty far away. 3 buttons to control playback. Actually, in first cube that buttons were below the screen, and I think it was a pretty good idea, because here they are pretty small and not so good to distinguish, but after some usage it's still okay. On the top edge there is on-off button, headphones output, and two balanced outs, 2.5mm and Pentagon one, so for the first time in the history, and a tiny on-off button. As usual, I'm trying to press the volume control but to turn it on, but it's just a feature for the Ultima. Other dubs just turns on with this tiny button. And volume knob with really good encoder and nice click, and there is an indicator ring around the volume knob. It changes the color based on the resolution, and also it can change the brightness based on the volume. And also back panel is made of aluminum with embossed KANN letters. Really nice and pretty solid feel. Front screen is occupied, front panel is occupied by screen. As usual, beneath there is a sensor back button. It has pretty good brightness and nice resolution. Of course, it's not something like Full HD, and unfortunately Astell&Kern didn't put some each-to-each screen, but still it's pretty good and operates nicely. You can see that it has a familiar interface, so basically it's Astell&Kern's firmware at its finest. If you use one of their players, you are familiar with the rest, and maybe in some future they will do some interface revamp, but not now. So now playing screen has album cover. Astell&Kern logo brings you to menu. This button is now playing playlist. Big album cover, you can tap it to see the lyrics, and back button, add to playlist, add to favorites, repeat and shuffle, and also button with additional information. Underneath there are buttons to navigate the track, and swiping in the lower part of album cover you can rewind the track backwards and forward. So the main menu has search, pretty good one. It's the main purpose of having a sensor screen, at least for me. Also, all songs playlist, it didn't scan the microSD card yet. Albums list, so it just samples. I will update media library later. Artist, genres, custom playlists, browse by folder. So here is my media library. And also favorites, high resolution files in the MQS section, CD library, services. Currently here is Deezer and Tidal, but it supports open firmware, so you can install APK files. It's not really convenient because you have to sideload them from the APK Pure or some other service, but still you can install the fresh versions of Tidal and other streaming services. So settings, pretty lot of settings, you know, but they are grouped wisely and really easy to understand. Here is Wi-Fi, where you can connect to networks. Bluetooth, you can turn it on and connect to the devices, turn off. Let's go back. Bluetooth codecs, so you can see LDAC, aptX HD, aptX, AAC and SBC. So you can select preferred codec. A&K Connect is a nice utility to control the player remotely. Equalizer, just regular graphic equalizer, or if I remember right, so we can add some more settings, save it. Graphical equalizer in the basic settings, or we can go to advanced and use parametric equalizer if we'd like to. So a lot of options to fine-tune the sound. Gapless playback, line out, you can activate the line out options. Both balanced and unbalanced outputs can be used as a balanced out. Actually, you know, screen is pretty decent, but it looks a bit dim on the video because I have bright studio lights. Left-right balance, Playback settings, so where you can select where to add new tracks after current song, before add just one song or all. Actually, it's the only dub, Astell&Kern Dubs is the only company that has such a granular settings. Notification panel, you can select what you will have in this panel, so if you slide down you can see the controls here. So amplification, it's basically gain settings to 3 levels of gain, and it's pretty good to have because it's powerful. CD Ripper, USB mode and USB audio output, SPDIF conversion, car mode, so just enable it and you will get big interface that is good to have in car. 3 filter settings, volume limit if you want to protect your hearing. Actually, it's a pretty good option because it's powerful. Screen brightness is already at the maximum level. LED indicator, you can turn it off if you don't like it. Date and time, device name, language, input method, timer settings, downloads, update, system information and reset. So everything is smooth, everything is nicely animated, so it's what you can expect from Astell&Kern. This player of course has and deliver. And thanks to upgraded Android version, now we have more we are more certain about the future because Android 9 will be supported by streaming services for a noticeably longer time. And of course about the sound, let's have some earphones on the table. This time I selected a limited edition of Campfire Audio Solaris. They look beautiful and they complement this player pretty nicely. In terms of sound, it continues Astell&Kern's KANN lineup. It's still neutral with less Astell&Kern's signature coloration, but this time it's not as neutral as the original KANN and not as lively, so basically it's a pretty dynamic, powerful and lively dub, but still leaning towards the neutral and beat monitoring representation. So fairly well balanced and offering really good price to quality ratio, as I've said before. And let's probably proceed step by step. So bass is really well controlled, it goes to the maximum depth, it's not colored, not highlighted, not trying to add some weight, not trying to make low frequencies more efficient than they are. Basically monitoring technical with really good control with 12 volts RMS. It's a pretty expected outcome, so controlling low frequencies pretty well, with nice rich texturing and with really good rendering of tiny nuances, not at level of Ultima, but still really good and pretty audiophilic representation. Tight, impactful, with good kick and punch, so basically it can deliver what you can expect. But of course, if you used to some kind of coloration, it's not the model for you. And first example, it's Lingua Mortis Orchestra featuring Rage and nice symphonic slash metal poem. And if I remember right, it's this album just called Lingua Mortis Orchestra, and it's dedicated to the witch hunt, and track name is Oremus, and it starts with some low frequency effects and voice narration, so it's intermediate track just telling the story, but with nice good low frequency background, and this player delivers it pretty nicely. And more complex example, it's Rock Reimagined by the Chesky Records. I like this album and I often recommend it, and it's Dave's true story. Walk on the Wild Side, and it has nice acoustic drum and low notes of guitar go pretty deep to low frequency domain, and this player renders them nicely and lively and in the realistic way. So technical low frequencies that suits both acoustic instruments and synthesized low frequencies, so any types of bass it can deliver nicely. Mids are also natural with good resolution, not focused on the maximum micro detalization, not trying to pick the tiniest nuances, but still a bit highlighting the micro details. It's not trying to add some weight, not trying to highlight the macro dynamics, but at the same time, thanks to the good control, when record is nice, it will deliver and play it with necessary weight, with necessary authority, with good body, and of course with really good small nuances of instruments portraying and so all that stuff. It has a bit of Astell&Kern's signature liquid mids, but it's more, more a hint. For if you need more Astell&Kern coloration, if you like this liquid or fluid mid frequencies that highlights the transitions between notes and making everything more charming, your choice should be SA700. It's more Astell&Kern's colored. This one is more for those who prefer a more natural tuning, but still it's present here and making sound a bit more engaging and a bit more organic than it is in real life, and it's sounding pretty nicely. Imaginary stage is big, not as big as in Ultima for example, but bigger than average, both in width and in depth. So it's basically the technical dub that renders 3D stuff, does a good depth layering, does a good width separation. So basically it does everything you can expect for this price. It's only not brewing coffee, unfortunately, but still really good offer. And first example that I really like, it's Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, No Quarter live gig. If I remember right, it's 1994, and since I've been loving you, I really like this live version. It's Plant became more mature singer here. It's of course it became elder, and it became, I can't say it became more talented or more professional, but it definitely mastered his voice better than when it recorded this track for the first time. And despite the live sound, it's still a bit more emotional and a bit more engaging. And of course Page, just being Page, he's just perfect all the time. And also here as an additional bonus you will get that sounds of the audience and that sense of presence on the live concert, and this player definitely does it pretty well, giving you all necessary ambience. And second example, just wanted to promote this band once again. It's Motanka, Ukrainian folk metal group with really theatrical approach, with great with great live concerts, with lot of interesting stuff going on during the concerts. Really recommend you to find some of their tracks on YouTube. And of course, as any folk metal band, they use a lot of instruments. They use throat singing, they use cymbals, they use a lot of folk instruments, and they have great vocalists, and their music is based on the Ukrainian folklore, pretty expectantly. And all of that requires really good resolution and control, and this player just gives all that stuff. And Ой ты моя Zemle is just a great example. Really recommend you to find this track on the YouTube. They have nice live performance. Okay, enough of advertisement, sorry, I just like them and I just want to share it. So nice technical resolving both heavy guitar part and cymbal part and vocal. All that stuff is rendered nicely and with good amounts of energy. And treble here, it's just, you know, just a good treble without... I can't say anything about treble here because it's just as it should be. Not highlighted, not softened, not having some additional energy put in this spectrum. Basically nice, good treble with good extension, with good layering. Not perfect, but good layering and nice overtones, saturation. So just basically what it should be. It's not as rich as Ultima has, for example, but still it's just a good treble. First example, it's Whiplash original soundtrack. Great movie, great soundtrack, and of course Whiplash is all about drums and percussions and all that cymbals, and it's just nice and really detailed with a lot of small nuances and overtones, and this player renders that pretty lively. And another track that I often use to test the treble, it's Leïla Martel, Dance Floor, one of the best female vocal records in my collection, with a lot of high frequency overtones, and this track is really hard to be played in a convincing way, but this player does it pretty nicely. So once again, natural sound with good control, dynamic, lively, and with a hint of Astell&Kern's signature fluid mids. Speaking about the pairings, you know, it surprised me in a pleasant way too. From balanced output, it can drive even pretty power-hungry planars and without any problems, and not super power-hungry models like Mesa Empyrean, for example. It just drives close to perfection, you know, it drives them really close to the desktop units, so nice authority, good control. But what surprised me even more, with ultra-sensitive models, almost zero background noise, really good black background without attenuator. So basically Astell&Kern did a really good job tuning the amplifier here. Thanks to these 3 levels of gain, you can use it with sensitive IEMs, you can use it with full-size cans. So basically it's a universal device. If you have both full-size headphones and in-ear monitors, and you want to have the one device to rule them all, it's your choice, easily one of the easiest choices ever. And what else I can say? Speaking about the conversions, there are plenty of options in this price range, but Astell&Kern really compete well here. For example, KANN N6 Mark II, it's more emotional, more highlighting emotions, more highlighting macro dynamics, more rough in terms of sound, more energetic. This one is more natural and more monitoring. Ibasso DX220 with stock amplifier, bit more focused on the micro detalization, sounding a bit drier. It's option for those who like to get absolutely uncolored sound. This one has a bit of Astell&Kern's signature sound, and that's set it aside. Speaking about other Astell&Kern models, it overperforms original KANN by a big margin, you know, more natural, more resolving and more organic at the same time. Basically, if you have original KANN and you're thinking about the upgrade, it's a really good option. So the only thing it lacks, it's the second micro SD slot. Forgot to mention that it has 64 GB of built-in memory and just one micro SD slot. Original KANN had full-size SD card slot too, and it was a nice feature. But anyway, And Astell&Kern's SA700, it has more signature coloration with a bit more with a bit less weight on low frequencies and a bit brighter sound. This one is closer to neutrality. Ultimas are still bit better, bit organic, but Ultima SP100, I mean SP1000, SP1000M, SP2000, they are a bit more organic and a bit more natural and a bit more engaging in terms of sound, but all of them are more expensive, and old Ultimas 1000 from the 1000 line are less powerful. So, and probably worth mentioning here iBasso DX220 Max. It's also big, it's even bigger than this one, but it's more dynamic, more highlighting emotions and having more raw power in sound, so just a bit more powerful. But this one is smaller and a bit more portable. So, probably it's time to summarize everything what I've said, and this is a really good DAP that I can easily recommend if you're looking for some universal device to be a center of your media library. It has huge driving power, but at the same time it drives sensitive in-ear monitors easily. It has nice battery lifetime. 14 hours is actually a good approximation. Of course, it depends on the load. With some sensitive in-ear monitors, it can give you even a bit more than 14 hours. And with rare screen usage, of course, with at high gain, with full-size cans, of course, you will get less, but delivering 12 volts RMS, it's still pretty good figures. It has Pentacon, it supports real balanced line out, so you can connect it to some balanced amplifier. It supports LDAC codec in a Bluetooth. It has Android 9. It has support of streaming media. Basically, you know, it has almost everything, lacking just few small nuances. I'd really like to see the gain switch here in this control center. Maybe power button could be a bit tighter, and of course I need to order a case for it. Besides that, it's really good player. So thank you for listening, thank you for your attention, and have a nice day.